We know artificial intelligence is making its way into our lives in many, many ways, but it's also making its way into our money decisions. But how do you use it wisely? Mark Ting is here today to share how he has used AI for mortgages, for taxes, and budgeting, and the best ways Canadians can put it to work in their own finances. Mark is our guide to personal finance and a partner at Foundation Wealth. Mark, hello there.
Hi.
Good to see you. So last time we spoke, you mentioned using AI when renewing your mortgage. So how exactly did AI help you with that decision?
It helped me in two different ways. So the first one was going through my options. If you remember from that conversation, there's a huge distinction between early renewals and regular renewals. I did not get that information from my lender. I got that from AI when I was asking AI questions. I gave it my sort of specifics, my renewal dates, what I was looking for, what I was considering, and it sort of popped up. It's like, well, the number one thing you got to think about is, are you going to renew early or regular? And I was like, what's that? And it gave me those answers.
And you used to be a mortgage broker.
Exactly. So if you remember, there's a lot of benefits to renewing during the regular one. And then I renewed and I signed the contract. And guess how long that was? Dozens of pages, lots of fine print and everything. And I'm like most people, whereas I don't really want to, or I know I should, but I don't read all the fine print. But I could take that document, throw it into AI, and ask it a bunch of questions because I wanted to know the answers. I wanted to make sure it was a regular renewal. I wanted to make sure when it took effect, what the rate was, what my penalties were if I canceled it. All those questions I could ask it, and without having to read every single clause, I could get those answers. So very useful, a lot of time savings there.
Did AI help you decide between a variable or a fixed mortgage?
AI is really good at what-if scenarios. I kind of consider it sort of like a research assistant. So it does a lot of the research, and it comes up with some scenarios, but ultimately it's me who makes the decision.
Okay.
So when I went through all the matrix, I wanted to know how much interest I would be paying under fixed versus variable. And at the beginning, because I was given a rate of prime minus 0.8 for variable and 3.94 for fixed. So I chose the one with the higher rate because after I did some research and I just sort of thought that, well, it starts with variable, but if we get a couple interest rate cuts, it only takes one, I'd be sort of at that, below that 3.94. Me following macroeconomics, I felt that we probably will get a couple cuts. So that's why I went with variable as well as some other reasons. So again, that was for me, but it definitely gave me a lot of the options. It asked me what to consider, and I knew a lot of the questions to ask, but a lot of people don't because they're sort of new to this. And you can ask AI, what questions should I be asking? What should I be considering? And it just helps out. But ultimately, you have to make the decision.
Well, sure. Well, debt management, for example, budgeting, these are kind of cornerstones of families' finances, right? So how can AI help us make better decisions in those areas?
Right. So their one is, garbage in, garbage out. You have to feed it a decent amount of data. So if you are very serious about budgeting, maybe you're blowing your budgets or you're those people that I make good money, but where does it go? Poof, at the end of the month, it's gone. You need to see where it's going. So what a lot of people are doing is they're uploading their information to a large language model. They're basically showing their bank statements as well as their credit card statements and showing where the flows are. And then they're asking the AI, hey, what's going on here? Where am I overspending it? Can you compare this to a regular budget? And there's rules of thumbs of how much you should be spending on discretionary, how much you should be investing in saving, paying off debt versus your essentials. And how does my budget, based on all this data, compare to those? And what could I be doing better? Or what is going on? And it'll churn out a bunch of questions, and ultimately it's up to you to make those changes.
Right.
But the data is there, and it's a lot less intimidating than actually showing people, because sometimes that's embarrassing. But so we're seeing more and more people using it in that manner.
Just as you were describing that, you're putting your bank statements out there. You're putting maybe your salary or your work statements, all of those kinds of things. Are you concerned at all about the amount of personal information that people can share with AI and with the companies behind the technology?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge, huge issue. So you have to sort of do a risk-benefit sort of analysis of what you're willing to give. But ultimately, you don't want to make it too easy for them. So if I do feed information, and this is my recommendation to people, is like, you want to give them the information because they need to give you the right answer, or it'd be based on proper data. But you don't have to spoon feed them everything. So if, for example, if it was my bank statements or my investments or my credit cards, you want to definitely redact all your personal information, anything with your address, your name, if it's taxes or something like SIN number, and just give them the numbers so that they can make some decisions. Because ultimately that information will be stored. And depending on the version or the LLM, the AI provider, some store it for a long time and some have different rules about when they will erase it. So again, this is all things you can look up. So you can, when you make your decision on which AI you want to use, you should think about those things. What are the privacy rules? What are the encryption rules? Because some are better than others.
Right. Well, and what about the actual information, the answers that AI is giving you as well? How much can we actually trust AI to give us accurate information?
So I would put this into two categories. So the category where I get a whole bunch of small print and that document, and the answers are purely based on that document, they're accurate. They're pretty good because that's essentially the source is right there. And you can do this with almost anything. If you sign up for a new app, a new subscription, whatever it is. That type of summarizing and asking questions, very good. I trust it. Now, if it's more like a Google search or you're asking just general questions, very suspect. You cannot trust it. There's something called hallucinations where if you ask AI a question, it will give you an answer no matter what, even if it doesn't know it, and it will sound very smart and sound like they're very confident in that answer. Right. Now, I will say the AI is getting much, much better at this, and almost every month it improves this status. But it's the way you have to ask the AI the questions. If I was asking a tax question, for example, I would ask, let's say, ChatGPT. I would say, hey, answer this question as if I'm an accountant. This is my profession. I need to use the up-to-date codes. I can't use old information. And give me every source, every link when you get an answer. I want a real answer because my reputation is at risk. And if you prompt it sort of like that, it'll answer you in a much different way than, hey, what's going on with my taxes this year? So we sort of got to learn how to prompt, and you also have to question. So in my case, I will often look at taxes, or I'll come up with something. There'll be something that I think is right, and I'm often using the AI to confirm it. And if it doesn't confirm it, then I'll challenge it. So the main thing, I guess, is those footnotes. If you give me an answer, give me the links, give me all that. Only take information from CRA websites. You can give those prompts so that it's very direct.
Okay, I mean, I think that's important, and you're driving the bus still, and as you pointed out, you're still making the ultimate decision at the end of the day. But there are people that say that our increasing reliance on AI, it's a time saver. Perhaps I don't want to read the whole document. I'll get AI to summarize it for me. But that reliance on AI is actually making us stupider. Yeah. That it erodes our own critical thinking, and sometimes, it's not the most fun to go through some of these documents, but you are doing the exercising your brain. You use AI daily. Mm-hmm. Do you worry about the cognitive effects?
I don't at this point, but maybe future stupider Mark will. I don't know. The way I think about it is like back in the day, I knew dozens of people's phone numbers, and now I'll have a hard time thinking of my kids' phone numbers. It's just my shifting is different. I'm still using cognitive skills. I'm just using it in a different matter. If I were to go think of an Uber driver or taxi driver, this is their profession. They drive around all the time. And they probably know it great, but I still want them to have their GPS on so I can feel confidence. So it's sort of that sort of mentality. And then we go all the way up to a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. I did read a report where the doctors who are graduating today are scoring lower on cognitive skills than their previous cohorts because they've used, this is the first one with AI. But to be honest, I would pick the doctor who could use AI because I would want them to make their diagnosis. I would want it back checked and checked with AI. I'd rather have that doctor. So I think that's sort of the progression that's going to happen. So maybe we're going to get stupider. I'm not sure. I think we're just going to use it as a tool and think differently.
Well, I think you've given us some great tips today as well, just in terms of the prompts that you give, how specific you want to get, exactly what kind of information you want, and to ensure that it's going to be verified information somewhere.
Which takes critical thinking, because you have to be critical of the AI.
It's okay. I still think you're smart. It's okay.
Appreciate that.
Mark, thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
That's Mark Ting. He's our guide to personal finance. He's a partner at Foundation Wealth, and he joins us every week at this time. And if there's a question that you would like Mark to answer, maybe it's a financial question, maybe it's something we can discuss here on air, feel free to send him an email, marktingcbc@gmail.com. marktingcbc@gmail.com.